Hey guys, welcome back to Faith in Jesus podcast. I'm your regular host, KentraeMusic. This is my lovely wife, Justice Frame, and we are doing a series, probably a 4-part series called Faith, Keeping the Faith When Your Marriage is Under Fire. All right, and we're just going to be talking about things that happened over the past 6 years of our marriage. Not in detail, but we will be airing out some dirty laundry and how basically God helped us through those things and how we kept the faith in our marriage. More so how she kept the faith in our marriage when I was living life double-minded. So this episode is going to be keeping the faith when your marriage is under fire. Okay, so keeping faith in the marriage covenant is what we're talking about today. Keeping faith in the marriage covenant. And so double-minded. So I'll just start. You want me to start? Okay. I'll just start by saying that when I was younger, I've experienced a lot of unstable relationships. It's just I've never actually seen a stable relationship and what it looks like besides on movies, and it's all scripted. So you think things are supposed to go, I guess, a different way than what you would initially think it should go in your head. You know, when you start trying to play stuff out in your head, in real life, it can turn into fantasy, not reality. And so you kind of build a reality in your head of what marriage is supposed to look like, what a husband's supposed to be like, based on what you've already seen. And when you only see little amounts of people express true authenticity short term, long term, but it's only like 2 people, but you kind of think it's a rare case. And the reality is that most people do what I have done. And because of say what?
I wouldn't say most.
Well, maybe not most, but some people. There's a lot of things that I've come to realize that it's just not reality. Over the past few years, and I was slowly already coming out of it. You know, people are like, man, how could you not know it wasn't reality? Which I knew it wasn't. You know, I've read the Bible most of my life. I've called myself a Christian all of my life. But actually walking in a spiritual lifestyle with Jesus is something that I recently started doing. So, back like I was saying, I haven't seen a lot of stable relationships growing up. And so when I got married the first time, it was just kind of like, live out what you see, kind of like do the best you can with what you got, and it was what I thought was love. I guess it was lust, but with my first marriage and the things that we done was basically out of lust, and we got married because we had a child. She was pregnant, so we got married. It was only right. They always say that, when you get somebody pregnant, and you're living in sin and you're dating a girl and you get her pregnant and the family's like, well, it's only right you guys get married. You might as well do it right now. So now you're obligated to a marriage that you really didn't want to be in, but because of sin and because you did things outside of the government of God, now you're having to deal with the consequence of that, which is now you're married to somebody you really don't even want to be married to. But you think you want to be married to that person because you guys had a baby. And you guys have been friends for however long, or you haven't been friends for however long and you were just in sin, But long story short, things happened with her where long story short, things happened with her where I was living my life to the fullest in a double-minded, being double-minded. And I ended up having a hole in my heart because of that, because she ended up cheating several times, and I got her back several times, and it was every time she came back, she would cheat again, and it was like a vicious, endless cycle of you cheat, I take you back, you cheat, I take you back, you cheat, I take you back. And the number one thing that a good friend of mine, James Richards, told me was to always love her as Christ loved the church. And so I read that verse, I read those scriptures, I read scriptures about marriage, I read scriptures about being a good husband, and I tried to embody that. And no matter what I did, okay, it didn't work. She ended up still leaving, still cheating. And so time goes by, and now I'm hurt, and I'm trying to gather all the pieces, and I start doing the same thing. While we're still married, sleeping around with different women, but still trying to embody the old traditional, I guess, religious way of I'm under grace, once saved, always saved, which is a joke, by the way. Your name can be blotted out if you walk away. But you can be redeemed. You can be restored back to salvation, back to Jesus. And so with that being said, I would say to anybody who is thinking that you can sin and keep living your life to the fullest, that you're fooling yourself. And it's time to get right, and it's time to put that down. But like I was saying, I was a womanizer most of my life. And when I met my wife, I was still a womanizer. And I put it down for a while like it was a game. I put it down for a while and focused on my wife, with the dating aspect of that, of us dating. And then me knowing that she was virtuous, I was still I wanted to respect her, but at the same time was still wanting that. And we wasn't perfect, we still kissed and hugged on each other and stuff like that. We wasn't perfect, but because of my old way of thinking, I still kept in contact with a lot of not a lot, but some women that I was previously talking to or was engaged with in certain aspects of life. And I knew it was wrong, but I had a genuine problem and didn't want to let go of my past. Was too blinded by sin to see that I had something good right in front of me, even though I knew I had something good. But leading up to us getting married, I had started back talking to different women by talking to someone who was new, and that just spiraled out of control. I started talking to different women, trying to lead them to Christ, counsel them in their wickedness, and was joining in their wickedness, and so that's just a light way to say that. But I also ended up hurting her many, many times, and she 100% knew about certain things, about me being friends with females, talking to different females, and it didn't really go over well at first, but then she was kind of like, I don't want to keep him from having female friends. He got to interact with women at some point in his life, and that gave me basically like a clearance in my mind. I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep talking to different women, and I did. It wasn't her fault, but because she said that, like, I was like, I'm gonna keep talking to different women, and it was not, I'm just gonna just keep being friends with them. Wrong idea. Any man who's married, okay, if you are a married man, you do not need single female friends. Full disclosure.
Correction. Mm-hmm. I didn't just tell him that you could just have any type of female friend.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's what they gonna say?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, no, not at all. No, she didn't tell me.
I gave you guidelines.
We
or not guidelines, but
right.
whatever it's called.
It wasn't that we gave each other, we both had an agreement and understanding of who we were supposed to be talking to, and I voided that contract, several times. And
well, the way you said it was like, oh, well, she just allowed me to have all the female friends that I wanted.
No,
that's the way you said it.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way at all. And I knew that there were certain female friends that I had that you wouldn't approve of, and I, didn't say anything about it. But then, as I started to wind down and talking to different women, I was getting more involved in church. First of all, I was working at the jail, working long nights at first, and started having basically reverting back to my old, not seductive. What's the way? What did I say?
Just your old ways.
Just old ways, yeah. Just old ways of talking to different women and stuff like that. And I was working late nights. She would sleep, and so instead of me spending all of my time, because I was still reading the Bible, and at this time I had started going back to church and leading worship, and I was still reading the Bible. I was smoking, I was drinking, I was cussing, fighting at the jail, trying to pick fights for no reason, but not for no reason, but just didn't care if anybody got smart with me or anything. I was ready to go, so I was haughty, I was prideful, I was arrogant, and I was just living in sin. It kind of got out of hand. Things were said that should have been said. Things were sent that should have been sent, and so, and this was pre-marriage. There, fast forward into the marriage, I'm still doing it. Not as much, but still was doing it.
You must recall something different because it was all the time.
I'm saying it wasn't as much as I was doing it before. Anyway, get married, and was still talking to different women, and didn't want to per se stop. To be honest, I didn't want to stop because it was a comfort in doing it. I felt like if she leaves, like my ex-wife did, and so many others did, then I'll have someone to fall back on. And I wasn't trying to use her as a fallback, but it was like just me being stupid and manipulative to keep different women in my life, and that was wrong. It was wrong with me, I'm not, and I don't say that pridefully. I just know I'm free from it, and it still like bothers me. Like even now, it bothers me talking about it because I hurt her in so many different ways. But the kicker was when we moved to South Fulton, and all the while.
No, the last time. Because the last time, or before we moved to South Fulton, it was more of we had already been married almost a year, and we were trying for Adeline, and that was also one of the days that I had found something in your phone, and we were trying for Adeline. Now that was tough.
Yeah.
Like all the other ones, okay, whatever. But we were, trying for a kid, and you were still doing that junk.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to South Fulton, because it took a little while to get over that.
Most definitely. And in the process of all that, I had apologized and put down talking to different women again. It was kind of like going back and forth, in and out.
It was a
Tug of war
cycle. It was a huge cycle.
For sure.
Like
And
a huge cycle.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's not a for sure. It's a huge cycle.
I mean, yeah.
that because it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You were just. I feel like you were on the back side of that. You wasn't like really experiencing all the emotional stuff that was happening, right. Because at that point you wasn't even emotionally ready to talk to me about that type of stuff.
Right.
So you would somehow turn it around and with something that I wasn't doing or something that, you felt like you were lacking, and there really was no lack. You just wanted what you wanted. I guess sinfully wanted what you wanted.
It's the truth. But how did that make you feel, knowing all of that? Like knowing that I was talking to different women, and we were trying for a baby.
I think after that last time, I think you got the gravity of it.
Yeah.
Because we was trying.
Yeah.
And I think you felt the heaviness of that. So actually, I think you stopped for a little while when I was pregnant with Adeline, because you were also over the road and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you stopped a little while because I was at home with the kids and pregnant. So
yeah, barefoot, pregnant.
Yeah.
And then dealing with my crazy tail, But we get here to South Fulton, and I'm driving trucks, and I'm working for a truck company that's local,
mm-hmm.
and we're trying. And you were pregnant by this time.
Mm-hmm.
Pregnant by this time, and
you did good, actually.
Yeah.
Until met that person.
A certain someone whose name shall not be named, Voldemort. And my question to you would be, how did you keep the faith in our marriage when all the things that had happened that we're going to talk about later on in this video? How did you keep faith in our marriage during that time?
Well, I mean, we wasn't really in church a lot, but at that point at the point of in our marriage, or even a little bit beforehand, we wasn't in church or anything like that. But I still had a secret time. I had in the apartment that we lived in, our doors connected to the boys' closet door. Yeah. So I would go in there and write down all my prayers, just read my Bible. And when all that stuff started coming out, it was in a way strengthening. It helped for a little bit, but then it continued. I didn't expect it to continue. I thought that God was just going to take it away like that, and then we had moved to another part in the city that we were living in, and it had gotten worse of the talking to all the different women and being caught, pictures being sent, being caught. And that's when I was still having my secret time a little bit, so to speak, but I just remember praying and weeping, to the Lord about fixing you, because I think it was also a lesson, because I wanted to fix you. I wanted to be like, this is what I deserve, and if you don't give me that, then I'm out.
Yeah.
But there was more
Rightfully
people.
So, yeah.
There was more people involved. It wasn't just me and you. It was the boys. We had the boys and stuff like that. So I couldn't just leave because I have already invested time in the kids.
Yeah. And it was kind of selfish on my behalf to let that go on for as long as it did.
Yeah. And so I just continued to pray, and I think all this long suffering, it really showed me that women, you can't fix your men.
Yeah.
People tell you, once you get to that, that right woman, she gonna straighten you out. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's the only person that can straighten him out is the Lord.
Yeah, it just takes a prayer
Because
and
I
fasting
tried. I tried. I did a lot of
and
praying.
but it was all innocent at first, and then
One thing led to the
one,
next.
a comment got said,
Picture
and
got
a picture
commented.
got commented, a comment got commented,
And all this time, if you remember correctly, like he was letting me read the messages. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh, here, you can't see my phone. I knew about that
Right.
person, and
Right.
I was reading those messages. I was even talking to her.
Yeah.
Or that person. So it's not like he was, keeping her secret.
Well, listen, you could say her. It wasn't a guy. He was like her. I mean that person. No, it was full on a woman. It was not a dude.
Sorry, baby.
Goodness.
So it's not like he was, hiding that friend. Because I pushed him to have friends. I didn't want to be that type of wife, like, oh, well, you can't have, female friends or whatever. Like we said, or like he said earlier, there was kind of, guidelines, and there was things of, I trusted him of the lines. These are the lines, and you should not cross them lines.
Right.
And they got crossed.
Big time. Needless to say, one thing led to another, and for all you adults out there.
But let me just make this clear again. I was reading his messages, but while I was reading his messages, he was deleting the inappropriate messages.
Yeah.
So I never saw any inappropriate messages between you and her.
Yeah.
Because we were even talking.
I mean, yeah.
Because you wanted me to be friends with her, but that never took off because
right. And to say something that you didn't even know about, if that's okay. Say something you didn't know about.
You said that I knew.
On camera. Say something about you don't know about it on camera.
Why? Just in case I murder you?
In case you murder me.
It's on camera.
It's on camera.
All right.
The reason why you didn't see some of the messages that I wasn't deleting them, that was on Facebook, like through Facebook Messenger. So some of the messages will be through phone and some will be through Facebook Messenger. And so you wasn't going through my Facebook. I was showing you the stuff in my phone.
But also by this time, I had a baby. By this time, Adeline had already been born. And so I didn't have time to go through your phone like that.
Yeah. So
because you were actually showing me the messages, and I would just read if I had 1 or 2 minutes extra.
I was just being full on manipulative.
Yeah.
100% deceitful. I had so much deliverance that I needed. I had so many things I needed to be free of, and I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it was horrible.
But I couldn't talk to anybody about it because we was kind of in church, and there was just, family didn't really need to be involved because the wrong things would have been said, or the wrong opinions, or what do you call that? Advice. There we go.
Wrong advice.
Wrong advice would be given. So I burdened all this on my own self. So I had nobody but the Lord.
Right.
So praying and praying and praying. Just like, man, like, I don't know what it's going to take. So I'm like, there was one time where I told him I'm going to start talking to somebody just because, so you can feel, because he wasn't getting, he wasn't like really getting the gravity of how much, you was hurting me.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I loved our marriage at this point. I was already dedicated. Even though we wasn't like in church spiritually where we needed to be, I still loved our marriage, and I was committed to our marriage, even though in a way you wasn't committed, but I was, because I didn't have the same background as you had. I stayed virtuous, and I stayed pure, and so I didn't have all that baggage being brought into, our marriage.
Yeah.
So I was just stayed praying, stayed in my secret time, asking the Lord, just to send somebody, maybe give him somebody to talk to if he can't talk to me about it, if he's having issues. I don't even know if you were having secret time.
I was attempting
during that time?
I was attempting to have secret time, and I couldn't. I felt too much condemnation, and I had at this time, and the Lord knows my heart for real. He knows what I was doing at the time. I was literally crying out to God to help me stop this mess. Like, I knew for a fact I did not want to. Like, there was a part of me that wanted to keep doing it, but I knew for a fact, in hindsight, what should I say, just like stepping back and looking at everything I was doing, I was like, God, I would cry in the shower sometimes. I don't want to do this no more. You know,
I would cry in the shower too.
Yeah,
I mean, I
was addicted to masturbation. I was addicted to porn. I was addicted to. My mind was just like completely full on sexual about everything, you know. And so I would cry out to the Lord, Lord, I don't want to do this no more. I got a good wife. I have a great family. I don't want to leave. I don't want her to leave. I don't want to walk away. But there was something that for sure that needed to get out. So I mean, yeah, I was attempting to have a secret time and praying and trying to fast. You remember me, for certain times of the year, I would try to fast and pray. You remember that? No, but it's the truth. Looking at that, you see that, okay, well, he's trying to fast, so maybe this will pull him out, you know. But anyway, they look at it that way.
So praying and having secret time and even praying for my own self of like, if there's something that I, didn't really give him that he may have needed, or if it really was me, because that was my pride of, oh, I'm not doing nothing, so if it was me to change whatever there was, that I wasn't giving him, but I don't think it was me really, but and because it took a long time. Like, it wasn't just fixed in a year. This was like 2 years of doing all this, like every single week. It wasn't on a day-to-day. I didn't catch anything like on a day-to-day basis, but it was like every week. So yeah, that's how. So the Lord.
In short, how did you keep faith in the marriage? The Lord.
Praying.
But I mean, when this certain person
we jumping back to the okay.
When this certain person and I were engaged, it became toxic. A part of me did actually fall for this woman. And it was crazy because I had a wife who I loved, but didn't love enough, obviously, and had children with this woman, and she had been mothering my other 2 kids since the oldest, who is 13, since he was 5. Okay.
6-ish. I think it was like 6 or 7.
Somewhere in between there. 5, 6, 7. Somewhere, so since I think he was about 6. But since then, she had been mothering both of those kids, and I took it for granted.
So up to the point of, do you want oh wait, no, there was a point where y'all were like, everybody was supposed to meet up. It was like in October we were supposed to go to the pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
But we never did.
We were supposed to meet up with her and her kids at the pumpkin patch.
Yeah, so there was plans to hang out with her,
right? Of
everybody coming over or her coming over here, So it wasn't nothing that they were trying, to hide a friendship.
Right. It was. I mean, it wasn't like it wouldn't.
It was just the behind the scenes friendship.
Yeah, it ended up being something that it should have never been in the first place.
So do you want to lead up to that night or the morning that you?
Yeah. So I had been praying, and I had by this time told myself and told the Lord.
Okay, wait. Okay, before that, sorry. Before he, him telling me like 2:00 in the morning, no joke, 2:00 in the morning. He had already gotten some deliverance, which Anybody don't know what delivered means, he had some demons that needed to be cast out. And so he had did that through one of his, good, as he calls them, his spiritual father. Shout out to James Richards. So I had already started seeing change. He started, doing what he was supposed to be doing. He stopped talking to all the females, cut them off. There were been times where we would switch phones just to prove, but that at that point I had already trusted him. So the Lord had kind of shown me that he was different before finding out that what had happened.
Yeah.
Just a totally different person than what I married.
Yeah.
Whenever you go into a marriage, you don't really expect that person to change. You expect to change along with that person. But if you don't allow the Lord to do it, then it could be bad. And he didn't change, so to speak, when we got married. It was just always there. It just come up again. So during this time, leading up to what had happened, I had already seen the changes that I needed to see that made me take the news, better than what I would have if he told me when it happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, I had already seen change. And the fact that he told me at 2:00 in the morning, it was only the Lord that was giving him that pressure.
Yes, I mean,
apply the pressure. Yeah. The Lord said.
Yes. So I mean, the truth. This is true. Can't make this up. So I had told the Lord. Okay, I had already told the Lord. I had decided that I ain't never telling my wife that I cheated ever. I had decided, I said, and this is so dangerous now I think about it. I said, Lord, I prayed this, y'all. I said, Lord, I'm going to see you on Judgment Day. I'm going to have to explain this one. I had so much fear that she would leave. I had more fear that she would leave than I did of the Almighty God. And so it was like, he was like, he put so much holy fear on me. I was in the bed like this. I couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe. When I started talking to her, I was like, I gotta tell you something. Like I was a slave or something. I gotta tell you something, master. I couldn't breathe. But I woke her up and I told her, she was kind of like, she was laughing the whole time because I couldn't get it out. And she was like, you just playing with me. I'm trying to go to sleep, Well,
we had a baby, so I was tired. Yeah. I didn't have time to be like 2:00 in the morning waiting on you to whatever, muster up the courage to tell me what.
Yeah. And I had told her after Tobias. So this is baby number 2. Okay. And I 2:00 in the morning, I woke her up and I told her, and the Lord just wouldn't, because I was like, I had no doubt. I had all confidence that if I would have closed my eyes and went to sleep, that I was going to die. I mean, I had that much fear of God on me. Like, boy, if you don't tell this now, you ain't going to ever get a chance to tell it, And so I told it. And she was,
all the while, I thought he was still playing.
She did. She was like,
I thought he was playing my leg or something. It was a dream. Sometimes when you have that dream, your spouse cheating on you and you got to wake up to tell them.
Yeah.
Because it was in your dream. I thought it was one of those.
Yeah. And she dead serious. She thought I had a dream, woke up and had to tell her about it. But it was so serious that she was like, I talked to you about this in the morning. She's straight thug. She's like, I talked to you about this in the morning. I'm going back to sleep. I was like, what in the world? I didn't sleep. I slept like this. I did not sleep at all. I didn't. Nope. I ain't kidding.
After you told me?
After I told you, I didn't sleep. I slept like this. I kept rolling over, kept looking over and watching the clock, and then making sure when
it was daylight time.
When she moved, if my back was turned, when she moved, As did I. She moved. I just turned over.
You quit. You quit it.
For real. I didn't know. Didn't know. But once I got it out, the next morning.
Well, once I figured out that it wasn't
a lie, that it wasn't a dream. Yeah.
Obviously, everybody would have the same reaction of just kind of like in shock. And, just mind it was a year and a half, almost 2 years later.
Yeah. So
there was definitely a lot of feelings that I couldn't really explain, and
because I had decided I was taking it to my grave, and I was like, I'm not telling her. I am not. At this time, I had told 2 people. At this time, I needed some accountability, and so I realized I needed accountability. So I told 2 people, one being James, the other one being my brother, and I realized I needed accountability, and so I let them know, and started doing check-ins and things like that. So, men, let me just say this: I pray that you don't. I pray if you are dealing with something like this, that you get yourself some accountability. Cut it off at the root. Whomever she is that you're talking to, cut it off. It's not worth it. It's not. You don't want the headache. You don't want the conviction. You don't want the condemnation. You don't want the crazy nights, the distractions from praying because you're condemning yourself. You don't want the pressure of losing your family. That's something you really don't want. So if you're talking to somebody else, women too, if you're talking to somebody else, stop. Get accountability. Get in the word and live it out. That's my advice.
There was one thing that you kept asking me, after you told me, you kept on saying you kept on asking if I was going to leave you, like 200 times it seemed like, and at this point I wasn't able to talk, as just found out, and at this point I was just ready to turn over because I'm crying. I'm like, okay, I wasn't mad though. I wasn't mad. I was shocked and I was upset, but I wasn't mad, which is weird. You would think that if you're, you're just finding out that your husband had an affair, and you would be livid, but I wasn't livid. I was sad. And so I was, obviously crying. And you had kept on asking me and asking me and asking me. And just all of a sudden, I didn't really have to think about it. I had turned over. It's like, you know what? If he asks me one more time, I'm just going to let him know. And I told you that the God that I served is greater than my flesh.
Famous words I'll never forget.
And it's the truth. It is. Because, like we said earlier. What?
You said it is.
Oh, heck. Sorry, is. Lord. Being at that time, I had already seen change. So maybe that's why I wasn't mad. I had already seen the change the Lord was doing in you.
Yeah.
But that don't mean that it was easy to accept, because I still had to accept it. So the next day, I think you stayed home from work.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you, you just needed to sleep on the couch for a couple of days because I still needed process, like that was, the trust was broken. The love was broken. To me, it seemed like, this is our second kid that we're on together. And it was just like, I don't understand why. So we had talked about it, and the main thing of the feeling of was time. It was the time of you not telling me, taking that long to tell me. That was the most difficult thing to get over, was now you've kind of robbed me of the time that I needed to grieve that. You robbed me of that. And that was the most difficult thing. But then I think we continued to talk about it, and, come to find out, it wasn't me at all. And any of this time, we even talked about like the old stuff, because at this point, you were also emotionally ready to own up to what you were doing. Mm-hmm. And you did. I think the Lord brought that to your attention too. Yeah. So we had talked about everything, and come to find out, it wasn't my fault. It was all the baggage that he had before me brought into our marriage.
And I had attached that baggage and my fantasy of pornography and masturbation to our sex life, and not having as
our intimate life. I don't like this. They said I don't think. That's why I said intimate life. Our intimate life.
Our intimate life.
You can edit that as a 6-parter. You're gonna have a lot of editing.
Yeah, I do. But because of the intimate life not being as often as I would have liked.
Which, another disclaimer, I had just had 2 children.
Yeah, but it was
one.
right.
One,
but it
technically,
was more than
time. It's the time thing. It's still messing me up to this day. It's still messing me up to this day.
But it was more than just the 2. It was more. It was before the 2 kids. It wasn't happening as often as I wanted it, and I was being selfish.
Yeah, because that was fantasy.
Yeah, I was being
Nobody
selfish.
meant to do that.
Nobody. We can say different now. Dare to comment? No. But
still virtuous.
Then it was very fantasy, a lot of fantasy that I was trying to play out in my head into our bed, and it was completely flesh led. So yeah, I tied all that crap into that, and then was like, gave my flesh a reason to keep doing what I was doing. And again, it sounds so dumb. Like, I was just living lavishly, I didn't care. I was just 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in the word.
Well, I need my phone. There's a verse that goes along with that, of being the sexually immoral is actually like the number 1 top in the Bible. It's in Romans or something like that. It's like the number 1 thing that the world does is be sexually or commit sexual
immorality
stuff. Yeah. I can't remember what verse. You can cut that out, but I just had to say that. I don't know what verse that would be. I just read that, so that would have explained a lot, considering it's the number 1 thing. Yeah, but you can edit that out if you want.
Yeah.
I wasn't like doing the greatest either.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a drinking problem because that same year that the affair had, I also had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
So even then, once again, we were trying to have a baby, and you were doing that still.
Right.
So I was
Was I?
drinking and what? Stop it. I was drinking still, just to kind of numb that pain of that, but and actually, I didn't even stop drinking until I got pregnant with Tobias.
Mm-hmm. As soon as you were able to start drinking again from having Adeline, It was back to the bottle.
Yep. So I wasn't like 100% perfect my own self. I was just of my own things that I was dealing with in my family. Whenever I had Tobias, um, something in me changed of during my walk, I guess, of pressing in and realizing that it was bad to drink. I was just in a spiral of having that, miscarriage and still dealing with some of the other news that we'll share on another day that would happen in my family, or to me, that was in my family. So actually, I haven't even had anything since I got pregnant with Tobias. Once I found out I was pregnant with Tobias, which was at the beginning, around this time last year, I found out I was pregnant with Tobias, and I had not had another drink. So I would say like over a year, I have not had no alcohol, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
And as we do this, if we continue the series, again, I say it's going to be a 4-part series. As we continue the series, there'll be other things that we air out, that we'll unlock, that we'll bring to light, or we'll expound on based off of what we said here, and just go in depth. So we have this episode, which is keeping your faith in the marriage covenant when your faith is on fire. The next episode.
Oh, there was something else. You named that part out. That also of the faith of the marriage of, because even after finding out about the affair, I was still, even like to recently, like of December last year, January this year, I was still dealing with all the other things that you were saying to the women all those years ago with, making comments and stuff like that. It had actually got into, my head, and it made me seem like I wasn't worthy enough to call that, or for him to call me those words, because he abused that, or he stepped out of that covenant that we had in the marriage and was giving those compliments that was meant for me to somebody else. So even up till recently, I was still struggling a lot. Like I wouldn't believe, what you would say about me bodily, hick, the body physically, yeah, hick, physically, or about my hair, or just about really any type of, what do you call that?
Appearance.
Yeah, what he thought. I wouldn't accept it. And I don't know about anybody else, but sometimes, I have 4 children, so there's always noise in the house. So I was praying. I'm like, man, I'm not getting no breakthrough. I want to be able to trust my husband with certain things that he says about me. I want to believe in that, but my mind keeps on going back to, what he called those other women, and he wants me to look like those other women, and all that stuff.
Which I did.
And I had went and I had taken. The Lord speaks to me in my showers, you guys. It was like the only quiet place I have almost all day long is in the shower. Okay. And so I was washing my hair, just praying as I normally do. If there's nobody in the shower watching me, or no other 2 little small eyes watching me, I get to pray, wash my hair, pray, just be 100% with the Lord, and just asking for things, of being free to be able to cry and all that stuff. And so the Lord had said, Justice, you can trust your husband now. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, because I that's what I had wanted, but I was still kind of hesitant and scared because of years of just not trauma, but just hurt. And it didn't start off right. And so I think like ever since then, we've been like, not like mwah, but we've been doing, this is our best year yet.
Yeah.
So
I could definitely say that our marriage, the way we look at our marriage now, is what we would have intended a marriage to look like for partners.
Yeah, we got through a whole bunch of stuff at the beginning and not in the middle of our marriage. Not saying that we're not going to go through anything again, but nothing like that, I would hope. So we got that out the way.
I am bought back from the enemy. And so
and the way that I see you differently. Like, people are like, oh, man, I can't see him the same. I see my husband in a whole entire different light than I did when I first married him.
Yeah, I mean, we pray together, we read together, we
talk about things.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit speaks to her about me, speaks to me about her, shows her things in the dreams, show me things in dreams, and in our secret places that we can encourage each other with. So I mean,
stuff that we wasn't at all.
We wasn't close enough to the Lord to have such a relationship with Him to be able to have a relationship with each other. When you get married, a lot of preachers talk about the triangle, or the commitment triangle, or the love triangle, what you want to call it. And both the triangle, at the base of the triangle, the 2 points at the end, the bottom are you and your spouse. At the top is God, and it says if you try to go toward each other, you go away from God. But if you go to God together, then you both will get to God and to each other at the same time. So if both you guys are going after God together, you'll be together, you'll stay together. But if you're just going after each other, then something's going to happen. It's going to become a lustful thing. It's going to become a you and I thing, more so of keeping God away than inviting God in. And so you start wanting the creation more than the creator. And then that you start wanting other creations.
Well, that's kind of like the same of like what I told you the other day. It's not enough just to love your husband or your wife. It's not. It's if I would just love you and not have involved the Lord.
Yeah, true.
I probably would have left because if it's just based off of love and not any work, not even dedication to your spouse, and first going to the Lord, there would be none. Like we would not have had Tobias.
Yeah, for sure.
So marriage is hard work. It's not just, you can just get away with it with love. Oh, it's okay. I still love you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing, I think, to say is.
Yeah. And full disclosure, this video is how she kept the faith in our marriage covenant when it was under fire. Okay, so this video and the next 3 videos,
when you caused the fire,
when I set it on fire, full sparks and everything. I mean, TNT, boom. So I really blew it up, and the Lord just cleaned the mess up. She really embodies patience and love. She really is the embodiment of a virtuous woman. And I'm lucky to have someone such as she. Don't put it on. Don't put it on there.
Don't put
it's
it on
gonna
there.
Be on there.
Don't put it on
there. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, share this extravagant testimony. We are going to be doing again 3 more episodes to this 4-part series. Today was keeping the faith in the marriage covenant when your marriage is on the fire.
Keeping the faith.
Keeping the faith.
New religion. No. Okay.
The next episode is keeping the faith in each other when your marriage is under fire. Keeping the faith in yourself when your marriage is on fire. And last but not least, which may be the next one, is keeping your faith in Jesus when your marriage is under fire. I'm your host, KentraeMusic at Faith in Jesus Podcast, and we are out of here. Bye, guys.